What's going on, everyone? It's the Patient Hodler coming at you with another live stream, and this time with a special guest here. Doctor of Stuff is my guest. How are you doing today?
Patient Hodler, I am doing well. I have been looking forward to this discussion actually for quite some time, so I'm really stoked to see where it goes.
We knew since I don't know 4 or 5 episodes of around the Ecomiverse, and thank you for that, Jordan. That we need to sit down and talk together. And what better day could it be than today?
Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! Yeah, a lot of okay, not unexpected news. I'll say it that way.
You mean Foster?
Oh no, sorry. I thought you were talking about the Binance stuff right now, which is also crazy news. I mean, I wasn't.
I was joking. Yeah, but let's just go right through that door without even opening it. Just jump right through.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's probably one of the days to remember, even though that people seem to be quite relaxed about it. But there's really crazy stuff going on. So yeah, how are your feelings about the whole Binance SEC? What is going down? What are your thoughts?
I mean, there's been questions about. I mean, I talk about this all the time, and I get that the crypto space hates regulation, but they also want mainstream adoption, but then they hate regulation, and you can't get mainstream adoption without regulation. It's just not going to happen, right? And so, but regardless of even mainstream adoption, when you have a financial institution that is facilitating terrorism, right? Like that's what anti-money laundering and the countering of financing of terrorism, that's what those rules are all about. And CZ has pled guilty, right, to basically allowing ISIS and all of these terrorist organizations to transact through their platform. And when you grow a financial institution or a financial entity like that quickly, even if you have good intentions, it is very easy for things to fall through the cracks. So I'm not surprised. The markets, I'll say this, reacted, but not like they did with FTX, right? And there's a couple of reasons for that. Is it appears like Binance has the money to pay the fee, and that fine. Okay, and I talk about this too, right? When we talk about like Veve being slow and they're really cautious about regulation, a $4 billion fine. Okay, that's going to wreck 99.9% of all crypto projects out there. So regulation is important, and making sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's so that in case a regulatory agency or a federal agency like the Department of Justice comes after you with these type of things, that you feel secure in your actions there. So the markets are reacting. The fact that Binance has the funds to pay that fee, and so it's not going to go under or anything, is a pretty big deal. And so yeah, we are getting an opportunity to buy a little cheaper on, but not a big dip, right? I think last time I looked, like BNB token was at like 7% decrease. I mean, the markets are like a little down, but nothing compared to the gains that we've had over the past several weeks. So
100%. I mean, and how do you feel about this? So today I read this as in addition to what you just said. So I 100% agree with you. You cannot have mass adoption in that sense without regulation. So actually, that was one of the last sticks or stones that had to be removed for the ETF approvals. Yeah, in a sense, because basically all those institutions coming in, maybe BlackRock removing that one uncontrollable giant in the market, because the other one is basically accepted by all the ETF providers as a, what is that called in the US, as a market surveillance partner or something like that. Where they all had to name one crypto company or one I don't know if it's a custodian or something, and they all, I think, named Coinbase, right? So I don't know the exact word, but they all named Coin. No one said, yeah, let's take Binance, because Binance was already accused of commingling user funds and so on. So I found it very interesting that basically with this settlement, many people assume that this had to happen before spot Bitcoin ETF can be approved.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely some things that go on in the background as people are, elbowing and positioning themselves right for this ETF bull market. And you're right that like Binance could was a major is a major competitor to Coinbase or some of these U.S. based institutions, and the fact is that they just did not have strong compliance regulations surrounding things, and so if you have all of these institutions who are like, I don't want that exposure to potential having Binance be my custodian of the Bitcoin as I'm doing this ETF, because they might be commingling funds or they might be allowing these things and that gets shut down, or there's a big issue with that, like that creates some nightmares for people. So yeah, very interesting. See what's happening there.
So obviously the market is red a little bit on Bitcoin, nothing too crazy, a couple of percent expected. I would say I would even have expected it to go deeper, just on that whole Binance in danger narrative, even though that it was all settled and decided since a couple of days. However, if you look at the market, and I think that should move us over already. If you look at the market, everything is red, but Ecomi. So I don't know if you have seen it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
Isn't it ironic? Because when everything was pumping, Omi was going down, and now everything's going down a little bit, and then Binance is, Omi is pumping, and it's just odd.
And why do you think? What are your thoughts? Why do you think that is that this is happening?
Look, there's so many variables. It's hard to pin it. I've seen some people be like they calling it the Foster effect, and what I think by that potentially is that people were concerned for the longest time that the team wasn't going to do anything with the Omi token, right? That it was forgotten, it was abandoned. There's no utility. We've been promised utility for years, and really, like all we have is this soft staking, like. But for them to see, and even they talked about a blockchain team, but no one's seen or heard from the blockchain team. So for there to be like a tangible person now that the community knows very well, right, and who has made videos about bridging your Omi token and like talked about the Omi token a lot. I think that there is some comfort level where some people are like, okay, like I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable like entering at this low point, especially when they're looking historically at where Omi's dropped to at other lows, and it's around that same point. And so there could be, and look, when there's not a lot of liquidity or volume, it doesn't take a lot for the token to pump either. So if you just had enough people saying, you know what, I think that I'm gaining a little bit more confidence in where Veve is headed with the Omi token, naming a community manager. I feel like they wouldn't hire a community manager if there was nothing that they were going to be talking about in the near future. So I think that people are kind of like lining that up a little bit, and maybe a little bit more bullish, maybe,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's not the Foster effect, because if I remember the sequence of events correctly, I saw that capitulation wick exactly to dip to where the last bottom wick went, exactly to the, I don't know how many digits after the column, um, before that announcement, and at the same time, John's cryptotherapy already had a video out how he thinks that stuff is going up. So my theory here would be that because of that lack of liquidity, the trading whales that are specifically focused on Ecomi, but also trading Bitcoin and some other altcoins, now in the face of the dip of uncertainty, FOMC minutes, I think is today, something like that is coming out, or speech, I don't know, that they move funds between, I don't know, whatever. It's not a direct trading pair, but they ride Bitcoin and the market goes up with Bitcoin. So they sell Omi to get on that wave, right? And then they drop something back in it again. So that's kind of my theory since almost 2 years on this channel, because we had this we had the reverse from now during the entire bear market. In the beginning, in the complacency phase of the bear market, I still remember as if it was yesterday that Keval said, "See, guys, I told you, Ecomi is the first coin in the entire crypto market to decouple." because everything was red and Omi was green. And then obviously Omi followed after a while. And now I think we have a little bit of a reverse effect, so that stuff is flowing out of Ecomi to ride things that are exploding before. But yeah, it's almost, I checked the top 300. It's almost one of the only coins that behave in that way. So it's super weird. Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree with you that there are people that just are saying, I've kind of had enough of the token going down and not really doing anything. And I'm seeing all of these other tokens pump and they start to chase green candles, which I really try to do the opposite. I was already buying a lot of these tokens that went down, or have been down for quite some time, and then I've just been DCAing into Omi during this time too, right? But a lot of the tokens have pumped. Like, I'm not buying them now because I already bought them, and but I can definitely see how the people, if it's Omi's been their only holding or it's been a substantial holding, and they're seeing these other tokens starting to rise, or the gaming narrative, or some of these other things, that they're just like, I got to get some gains. And then maybe they've caught some gains and now they're flipping it back into Omi at these lower prices, which is then increasing the price. So look, I wasn't saying that it was the Foster effect. I was saying some people in the community, whether jokingly or maybe seriously, like, we're saying that, but it was very interesting timing on all of that for sure.
100%. And guys, we have around 50 people in here. We want more people in here. So make sure to smash up the like button right now to push this stream out and kick everyone else's streams to the side. Just joking. But anyways, that's what we want. So if you could do that for us, we would appreciate that. But now let's get to the really juicy stuff. So obviously we haven't, you are probably longer in Ecomi and Veve than I am. I've joined in August 2021 in Veve. So probably you are longer in the token and Veve. Since when are you in the stuff?
I mean, I think so I've been in Veve since March of 2021. I didn't get Omi. I think my first buy-in at Omi was at 007 is where I entered. So I'd have to go back and look and see what that is, right? And then as it's dipped, like, I've just dollar cost average down more and more. And then over the last year, when the token's been substantially down, is where I put in a lot more funds there. So yeah, it looks like I've been, like, with Omi and Veve not too much longer than you, like 4 or 5 months, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had Ecomi a little bit before, and then I was like, what is this token actually doing? I mean, yeah. I still ask that question, but I am in Veve now, so that has changed. Now, with that question in mind, if you put these pieces together, like you have joined 2.5 years ago, more or less, yeah, and then in September this year, or I don't know if it's June, July, they announced that they hired a blockchain team. So, and then now they have announced a community manager and have opened an Ecomi Discord, which many people have not realized yet that this exists. So it's very new, I think. Only a couple of hundred people in there, because I think you need an entry link to get in. However, what are your thoughts about this? Would you say, if a father says now, hey, they've basically not done anything on the token until they hired that blockchain team, wouldn't you be a little bit mad that you have, if you were an early investor 4 years ago, or you as an investor 2.5 years ago?
Look, I would say frustrated for sure. I'm not going to take away from people's frustrations, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's funny because people will sit there and call me a moon boy. And at the end of the day, I really try to take a step back with any project that I'm in and say, like, what's happening. That's why I typically don't block fudders. Like, fudders, right? There's some people that are called fudders that I look at what they're saying and I'm like, that's not FUD. That's like a legitimate concern. And I want to look more into that, right? But yeah, so am I frustrated that things haven't progressed like at the timelines that we've been given? Yes, but I sit there and think, okay, with my thesis of why I put money into the Omi token in the first place, what's changed? Well, we are finally seeing some things. and why we didn't see that before, I don't know. I don't know what, I don't know if they really had as big of a focus or a team built on that. But I do know that back in the day, 2017, 2019, 2021, like the things were different in the regulatory space. Like regulators in general, they were looking at ICOs. There was a lot of ICOs that were focused on that, but for the most part, like it was just kind of like whatever. Most people could do whatever they wanted, and there was no consequences, or they didn't feel like there were consequences. But now, as the SEC continues to like name exchanges, and on those exchanges name tokens that they say are securities and things, we're seeing companies folding before that. So like around that time, like into 2021, again, like I try to fill in the gaps when we're not provided information with the information that is made public, right? So when people talk about the exchanges, like they talked about in May of 2021 that they had an exchange lined up, and then something happened. And the only thing that I could think of is that the exchange thought that the OMI token was on Ethereum, but it was on Go chain, and certain exchanges, like if they don't have that node, or that process, they're not going to bring on one project for that. And so again, that's just something that I put together. It could be completely off, but I sit there and try to say, is this more of a danger or less of a danger now? Like, should I be taking my money out, or should I be putting it somewhere else? And I would just say, over time, even though there has been frustrations there, I still believe in what they're doing. I still believe that the token itself has a very strong use case. And we've seen that. Look, people are clamoring for utility, and I get that. And I want the utility too, because there are very few tokens out there that people are like, I want the token. And if there's a use case for it, it doesn't really matter if it's pegged to the dollar in some way, like the burning mechanism, $1 of OMI, right? They won't care what the price of OMI is, right? The price of OMI could be 30 cents. It could be $1, and they're not going to care because they just need $1 worth of OMI to get these certain mechanisms and stuff. And then that burning mechanism comes in, and it would be something that people want to buy instead of just to speculate on. And the thing is most of the space is just speculation. The reason the OMI token went up so much in February and March of 2021 is because the NFT narrative hit hard with NBA Top Shots. LeBron James moment sold for $250,000. And all of these crypto people were like, I need to find any token associated with NFTs. And they found OMI, and it just pumped like crazy, right? Because it was a narrative. The utility still wasn't there. So it is interesting that like people are looking at all of these other tokens that have gone up, and it's just like the majority of those tokens are just speculative bets, right? They don't have like a use case. The project hasn't even been developed yet, but it's all speculation. You're catching on to that. So I'm looking at the team now finally coming into play. They're building this out. They have a blockchain team. They have a community manager. They're talking about bronze tickets, which, by the way, I don't think you're going to do much until we get the ability to purchase layer 2 OMI on the app or on the web app, where it's a very easy process, because I've bridged that. And I've been in crypto for quite some time. I'm pretty comfortable, and it is still scary using a bridge. I don't care what bridge it is. It's terrifying bridging your assets and things on that. So that was a very long answer to basically say I was frustrated early, but like I'm pretty patient. Like you talk about being patient, Hodler, like it's the people who truly are patient and continue to analyze and say, does the reason I still invested, does that still exist, or could it still exist? And if it does, what could happen? And for me, I feel like there's still a real strong case for OMI going forward.
Yeah, you mentioned, first of all, I appreciate the longer explanation to it, because otherwise how can we wrap our head around your thinking from that perspective? Obviously, and my community knows, and everyone here hopefully knows, I have also never sold my OMI. I'm still holding the OMI that I have. I've been adding to the position, not in such a severe way as other people here in the chat. But I've built a little bit of a bag here for the bull run. Now, you mentioned that the burn mechanisms and what could happen if a dollar burned in gems, or a dollar spent in gems causes whatever burn mechanism. So we have seen a little bit of reshaping of tokenomics. So At this point, someone asked me in the comments just recently why there are no more of these good videos with the tokenomics and so on, because I answered, I'm not sure anymore what I can explain, right? So doesn't if or how do you feel about the tokenomics and knowing that they might have changed or that they're completely different? How does this still give you confidence in your investment? Is it something else besides just tokenomics that gives you that confidence to say, look, I'll just keep buying because it's coming. It's just coming 100%.
So that's a great question, and I will say I'm with you. And when I talk about, one of the things I constantly, when I had David Yu on my channel, I was like, we need more transparency. We need more communication, right? We used to have the red circles, and then that went away, right? Like, and there's constantly been like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and then it goes away, and that's frustrating. Like, I'm frustrated by that, and I say that, right? But at the same time, I say, okay, what could be the reasoning behind that? So with the change in tokenomics, I think that they are doing two things. They're saying, okay, now with like lawsuits that have happened and what's going on in that environment, what do we have to be careful of? And do we need to make adjustments to what our initial tokenomics were to make sure that it's compliant and we don't put a target on our back unintentionally? There's that. So that gives me confidence that I feel like throughout the entire time, and because like I'm in the regulatory space, like compliance is so important, and to see a project that's taken compliance so important from the beginning, that gives me confidence that these people are here for the long term, right? And they're trying to make that out. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I find that this is interesting, I've had some debates on Twitter, but people are just like, oh, they don't care about the token. David Yu already makes enough money through Veve that he doesn't need the token. And I was like, that's like saying that Jeff Bezos doesn't need the Amazon stock because he makes enough money with Amazon. And it's like, the large majority of Jeff Bezos' wealth is because of the Amazon stock that cost him nothing. Okay, cost David Yu nothing to get his OMI tokens, but like, he's got 30 billion tokens. He has every incentive to make the OMI token worth something. And so,
Yeah, but the
yeah,
Amazon stock is a registered security.
but
So
that has nothing to do with the price or making sure that, like, if right, so they're going to look and say, within the bounds of regulatory certainty that we have or what we can do, what value can we add to this token, whether it's burning mechanisms, right, or a reason that people just want the token, and then supply and demand of, as you're burning it, there's a higher demand and then there's less supply, right? That's going to just automatically make the token go up over time. And maybe it's a longer time period or maybe it's a shorter time period, but the incentives are aligned for them to focus or make the token worth something, because the more the token is worth, the more rich that they're going to become. Like that to me, it just makes logical sense. So like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, if I'm making $1 million a year, let's say David Yu is making $2 million a year, but he can make the OMI token right through. I mean, like, the way that they do that, and he can't make anything. He can put in institute certain mechanisms that if people decide to do that, there will be less supply and more demand, and the token ends up going up, right? And all of a sudden the token is worth 10 cents. Well, how much are his 30 billion tokens worth compared to what he makes annually, right? Like, it dwarfs anything he would make annually. So I feel like there's a parallel incentive there that for Dan and David to make the token work and to make it worth something. So that's just my perspective. Like, and that's why I feel comfortable going in and buying more of this token. Is I feel like at these prices, there's a lot that they are indicating that they are focusing on. They're going to the first crypto conference ever, right? And again, they've hired the blockchain team. They've hired a Ecomi community manager. Like, the signs are all there, but there's a lot of people who are so frustrated that they can't. They don't trust anything that's happening anymore. Where I'm just like, I'm trying to take the emotion out and say, okay, does this still look like a good opportunity for me to get in? And I'm saying yes.
Yeah, I think you said something super interesting there, because you said there are so many people out there now that really don't trust anything anymore, that it all bounces back as FUD. And I think that's super. It is like shocking an animal all the time, right? It will just bite you even if you only stick in your hand, right? So I think that's the status. That's super. Is like in one sentence very well summed up what the status at the moment is of that community, right? Because obviously the project is so magnificent that these people are sticking around, and I think some have evolved into where everything is bad, yeah, everything. But not on purpose. I think they have all started out as people that were super bullish, right? And as someone said here, even as maybe a little bit mean comment or so, or I don't know, you guys must have massive backs, and only where it fails, the dummies are done. Maybe there are some people in the community that have those bags, and they're down 95% or so, and they were excited by IMX bridge and by 45 exchanges, and we are going interoperable the last year and so on. And I know you said you're as frustrated as other people are, but I think right now my question is, what do you think is necessary to fix this? With, let's say, 95, there are 5% of people, I'd say, they are beyond saving, in the sense, saving in the sense
yet
of,
they stay around though, which is weird. But go ahead.
yeah, I think maybe that is a revenge feeling. Yeah. So that they basically feel the founders, the project, the community, the content creators, everyone have failed me, and now I'm sticking it to them, right? So probably that's the reason, right? And honestly, I mean, I can understand it in some cases. Maybe I cannot understand it if you are not assuming responsibility for your financial decisions. If it's a financial reason, I cannot understand it. If you're taking it so personal that you've been, I'd say, lied to several times in sequence, then I can understand it somehow. But what do you think needs to be done by the team to get the other people back that are also looking with a negative angle at everything that is coming out, but they want to get back on that side where they can say, yo, that's bullish, this is good for Omi, this is good for Veve? What do you think needs to happen?
Well, I'm going to say two things. So look, I got into Recur. I bought stuff. I got rugged. And you know what? I'm not out there being like Recur lied to me. I'm not tweeting at things like the people that are like that. It's just like, I think that, like, I don't know. I don't like, they're not sophisticated enough investors, and it's just sad. And like, really, I truly am sad for those individuals that they can't move on from that. And look, I put in money based on interoperability, based on exchanges, like I did, right? But I think that I've been in the space long enough to see that like that stuff happens. And I take responsibility and say, were there signs that I missed, right? Like, I mean, I look at Recur, and when they did that Star Trek and it didn't sell out, and the Maverick helmet and it didn't sell out, and like what was happening there, and yet I'm like, they've had to spend so much money on these licenses. Like, are there red flags? And there were, and I just didn't see it, right? And so I think that there were red flags for Omi, right, for the token itself there that I didn't necessarily see initially. When a lot of these things, I just kept buying because I'm a little bit more patient. But to now address your question, first and foremost, the funny thing is if the price goes up, everyone forgets everything. It doesn't matter all the problems in their past because I'm richer than I was before. But that's like not helpful, because most of the time, like, there will be a pump and people still don't sell there, and then it goes back down, and then they're right back to like fighting and stuff. So I think the biggest thing that needs to happen, I think that they're doing, I think that, and maybe it's slower than people want, but the fact that they have hired a blockchain team, they've now publicly announced a community manager, which most people in the community know about. They're going to a crypto conference, and David Yu, and we kind of talked about this like in some chats, right? But like David Yu on BB Magic's AMA said there is this expiry that until that occurs, they're not really free to talk about the token. And so my guess is that, I mean, there's been this Ben Gudenzi lawsuit in Singapore and then in New Zealand that's been going on for quite some time now. And so my my guess is that if they're going to this crypto RX conference, I think that expiry is going to happen before then, and I think that they're going to be more open to talking about that. And I think that they're setting the stage for that. They're coming into this new year. They're going to be starting to focus. People are dying for them to talk about the token. Like, that's the frustrating thing. They used to talk about the token. They talked about exchanges, and then nothing, right? Yeah. So even on my interview, like Crypto Rain and I, before we interviewed David Yu, we were like, look, we're not going to ask about the token because we don't want to put a founder in a situation where like they could get put in hot water for something they say with the regulators, right? And then at the end, I worded my question, and it was more of just like an ask, like, hey, is there anything that, like, any words of assurance that you can give to the people who are holding the OMI token? I didn't talk about price. I didn't talk about any of that stuff, right? And people were like, thank you for asking an OMI question. Just a question about OMI, right? It was anything. People are just starving for that. And I get it. And it needs to change. And that's where I'm like, if you can, even if it's to say, hey, we have not forgot about the token, and not just on like like my channel's small, right? Like this needs to be like public on their public like socials, right? Like saying we haven't forgot about the token. We can talk about this. We can't talk about this, or here's kind of whatever they can talk about. Just even if it's like we can't talk about much, but like just mentioning it. So I think they need to start talking more about the token, and on top of that, they need to start completing things that they say they're going to complete, because like a lot of the trust is lost, and the only way that you reestablish that trust is not making the promise, just doing it, just fulfilling those promises. And I feel like over time, at least on the Veve side of things, they have been able to. So this is one of the biggest things that I think has needed to be done, which they haven't really made this connection for most people. But OMI is supposed to be a utility token that's tied to the app. But if the app isn't functioning, or the functionality that they need for the utility isn't there yet, then there can't be utility for the token. I think that's why they did this soft staking, just to give us something, right? These MCP points, but we need that queue system. Like that is the foundation upon which they can build all of this other utility, right? Like, or I can use my bronze tickets to buy additional entries into the wait list or the drop, right, in this segment and stuff like that needed to be built, and they are on the cusp of finishing that. So my expectation is that within the next 6 months, I think that we're going to see multiple utilities rolled out that they have been waiting to roll out until that queue system was fully developed the way that they needed to put that OMI utility on top. But yeah, they need to talk more about the token, and they need to actually start giving us utility.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a quick interlude here. Der Vivimeister says, we still didn't meet in IRL, my German countryman. That is very true. He also sends me some fiat for beer. I hope for beer, not for Fanta. See you in France. Yes, absolutely. I'll take these €5, €3 after YouTube took the cut, and buy a French beer for you in France. Anyways, yes. So everyone who's going to Crypto XR, I don't know, are you coming also?
I really looked into it. Probably not. And I
it's
like the thing that
Yeah.
stopped me is when they're like Decon is going to Vegas, and I'm like,
oh,
I feel like Veve will probably end up going there. That's a lot closer to home, and I think it's going to be a blast there as well. Because I have a gold and silver logo. I haven't been able to get any of the utility. I didn't go to New York Comic Con. I thought because I thought they were coming to Decon this year, and they didn't make that announcement that they weren't until it was kind of too late. But man, I've gone back and forth. I mean, there's still a chance that I may go, but more than likely not.
So we could have the first appearance of real OMI news there, but it also could be a nothing burger. So we don't know.
Yeah,
but I want to go back to another and addressing quickly the chat. I mean, the chat is full of comments, questions, everything. Unfortunately, we are set to 1 hour because you have to get away after that. And there is the next stream coming up right after that, just to let you all know. We have 80 people here. So first of all, smash the like button. Secondly, After the stream, there's another stream on Jordan Reese channel. So all 80 people move over there after the stream. But for now, we have another big pressing question. And that is, you just mentioned that, David, you mentioned that there are things that keeping them from talking and doing things, if I can quote him more or less, right? We have this crypto XR coming up that we just briefly talked about. And we had a period where they were talking about the token, where they were paying YouTubers for shilling the token. I'm saying shilling without meaning it negative, but
Well, who's they? Who paid YouTubers?
Yeah, I think at that time, whoever that, probably Ben Godanzi and the other ones that were still on board as advisors.
Ben wasn't on board when he paid Paul, is my understanding.
No, I'm not talking about Paul. I'm talking about the deal with, I think it was Cryptos Are Us. He even had an Ecomi logo below. I don't know if it was Ben Godanzi or if it was everyone, but I think it was a very clear cut, open, hey, we're paying and there is a logo on Cryptos Are Us. And Cryptos Are Us was frequently just commenting Ecomi in 1 or 2 sentences. So there must have been a couple of $1,000s here and there for that to happen. So for me, that's a sign of, at that point, there was either not the awareness or not the necessity, because certain things have not happened yet, to step back from the Ecomi token and let it sit in the dark. What do you think is the reason why this could change now again, and why we had to be in the dark for a year or 1.5 years?
Yeah. And this is where, speculation nation, right? Like, I have a couple different theories. It could be that something happened with Ben Godanzi lawsuit that basically they were put under a gag order. And there's a lot that they couldn't talk about with respect to the token, or they were afraid that if they talked about it, it could be used in court against them. There's that potential, or there's the potential of the SEC really started to clamp down and, file more and more lawsuits against. It started kind of like in that time frame as well, right? Where then they were just like, we might need to take a step back and kind of see how things are playing out before we start shilling some more stuff, or, talking about the token more, or what can we say and what can't we say. So there's a couple of different things. But again, I take a step back and say it would have been in the team's best interest to talk about the token and to pump it up. And the fact that they didn't, I feel like there was absolutely something in the background that stopped them from doing that. And so, but your guess is as good as mine. Like, what do you think is like? So those were 2 of my examples. Like, what do you think?
Without trying to sound too negative, or I mean,
you can sound negative, man. Like, I want the uncensored patient take. Like, I'm very interested.
I'm trying to look at it from that perspective. So as you said, gag order because of lawsuits probably has to do with ex-founders, token holders, and so on, without naming any names, because there might be more than one. I think there is several reasons where you would just say, okay, let's sit this there. Let's first solve whatever lawsuit that is, and then go back to the token, because if we can't solve it, then the token is basically gone, right? Then you have to cut it off. So David hinting at an expiry is probably that there must be, like ETFs or anything else, there must be a deadline. You cannot drag out a court case forever to not harm a project. So I think there must be a deadline, and probably this deadline is due by the end of the year, something like that needs to be solved. And on the other hand, probably it's not. Many people suspect that the team is selling a lot into the pumps that they themselves create. But there's also the theory that the team creates the pumps and the ex-members sell into those pumps. So they just wait for it to sell into it. And probably then you would say, okay, let's not give them this opportunity until we have settled on the other side, until it's clear how much more tokens, for example, in a settlement they will receive, if we can get something back, or if we can forbid them from dumping our project into oblivion. I don't know what is going on. As you said, it's speculation nation, but I think it has to do something with that. Otherwise, there's no reason to not talk and act on the Ecomi token. And as you said, it seemed to be an excitement before. Then they were completely mute about it, and now something is changing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that, right? They're loosening it up a little bit. They're mentioning it more. I mean, I was surprised that David didn't just say, "I can't really talk about it right now," right? But like, I mean, he was like, "Hey, we haven't forgotten. We have big things for the token," and one thing that I'll just say about my interactions with David so far, I feel like he is a pretty loyal person, and I feel like he's so grateful to the Veve community, because without us and the people purchasing the token, his dream wouldn't exist. And I truly believe that he wants to do right by people, right? And so like I look at that too as someone, I'm like, okay, this person is going to do whatever he can, right, to fulfill those promises. And I'm in the master collectors chats, where he's appeared sometimes, and he's asking for how can we make this better? Like he's constantly looking at things. I also think that maybe sometimes David overshoots things. He wants to promise
Yeah.
the world, and people get excited about that, and they take him at his word, like not realizing that like yeah, you can't give us the world actually, and then that can upset some people. So I do think that that's why they've reined him it a little bit there, but yeah, like that expiry thing. I just have this feeling, man, this feeling that times are changing, and I really think that the first quarter we're going to get some more utility, and they're going to be talking more about the token. And if they don't, so two things. The entire time I've been talking about Omi, I think it's funny. Well, it's funny and it's sad. I mean, I've had so many people be like, just exactly like the comment that you shared, like your Omi bags must be so big that if Omi fails, like you're just wrecked, right? And they don't know me, and that's okay. But like I constantly talk about diversification. Before I was even halfway into Omi, I was already in other venture capital crypto groups doing pre-seed fundraising for projects that are just now coming out 2 years later, right? And then some projects that like I was a pre-seed investor in Engine Starter when that first launched, did very, very well. And I've held tokens when it went down. I held tokens down, and I actually bought some lower when I'm like, I feel like this is an excellent launch pad. They have a lot of connections, and they've done gaming stuff in the past, and then the token is pumped, right? So I preach diversification on all of that. But man, I forgot where we were going with this, but yeah, like I go ahead.
No, where we were going with this was just because what is changing. We have said,
Oh
okay,
yes,
some things are changing at the moment. So we've seen the Discord, we have
yep,
seen Foster, we have seen the Tenso Goku, or whatever the name of that game is, that they are.
and
Um,
Goku.
I've not tried the game. I've just seen screenshots. It apparently poses Ecomi utility for the shop. Yeah. So very interesting. Also, crypto XR. Okay, that's all fine. Now let's say the one Omi utility that they could bring next would be the bronze tickets, right? Um, if that happens, what do you think happens to the price? If they just show, okay, soft staking one thing, now it's next phase. Do you think that people are okay? We have two in sequence. Do you think this will stop Fathers from saying, hey, but that's it? They will, or do you think that Fathers will stay out of the market? Fathers, I say Fathers for easing it, right? But there are people that are really probably hesitant to get back in,
Mm-hmm.
even though it would be technically, if you assume that it's going up, technically a great moment to get in. Yeah, so considering all of that, what do you think is the like intermediate price target without giving it on the cent, on the millicents or so? Yeah, on the cent would be already a target, right? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't think that. I mean, I think that there will be a little bit more bullish. Like there might be a little bit of a pump, but then I think it'll drop back down. I think it'll be like a higher low potentially going forward, because there will be more people who are like, okay, we're starting to see some of the promises that they've made coming to pass, but like still some hesitancy. But but bronze tickets in and of itself is not going to burn much OMI because it's too big of a pain. It's too big of a pain to get your OMI over to the app to then use it to buy those bronze tickets. And most people aren't going to do it, or most people are going to try to do it. They're going to lose it. They're going to lose their OMI. They're going to do it incorrectly. They're going to be pissed. So I don't think that it's going to create much of a pump there, but I do think that it might create some. So like, I mean, what are we at now? 000, I mean, 5 or 0006. I think it got up to 0006 again, right? 00061. But like, if let's say that all things being equal, at the end of the year, before they release bronze tickets, OMI's at 0006. I think it could take it back up to 001. It could, but then it could drop back down to like 008, 009. But I mean, that's if nothing else changes in the space, which there's so many variables. Who knows?
I think the price. So you gave an idea of how hard the reaction could be, and I kind of agree with you, because it would be basically. I think it would not so much be about the burn mechanism or what stands behind it, and just let's exclude for a second the bearish scenario of people losing their OMI, because there's a solution to that as well. But I think you're right, because it would show that the next step in a sequence of OMI utility is really coming. Plus the drops that where you could use your bronze tickets, they need to be really desirable. It cannot be like I don't know, little art piece. Yeah, so it's something like Little Nectra or something. It needs to be a real banger, right? And then everyone is going crazy about this. But there is a solution for this. Maybe before the bronze tickets, you need OMI purchased by credit, as Energy said before, OMI purchased by a credit card in the app. So then you could, so first of all, you would need a reserve for those purchases in the app.
Not necessarily. So you can have a third party that they facilitate the whole purchase of everything. So basically, like you use it, and then in the background, they're the ones that have built the ecosystem or the API and everything like that to purchase from the open market at whatever discount, right? So if you're paying $1, but then they're going to take a piece off of it for their fee, and then they're going out to the market and then bringing it in. They don't have like there's a mechanism in which they don't have to have a reserve there to do that. Now they could to make it a little bit easier for them, but like MoonPay does that all the time. You can pay in crypto, and so I think I would expect that Veve. I would be shocked if they're not already in conversations with someone like MoonPay or one of their competitors, right? To facilitate that, because man, like the easier it is to purchase something, the more likely
I would do it directly, because before I bridge my stuff on the Veve app, I'd rather pay on the fly for the equivalent of OMI that I need to purchase the bronze tickets, right? 100%. So technically, that enables a credit card to bronze tickets via OMI proxy, but whatever you need OMI for, I'd rather purchase it directly in the app than bridge it over for, and I don't know, Ethereum gas fees and I don't know what. Maybe they can include that in the price so that people don't feel it so hard, or it's already soft. But that would be, I think for me, I would rather see that together with the bronze tickets than only bronze tickets on top, because then the bronze tickets are only, as you said, for the people that made the effort to bridge. And we just had a comment here from Free CV61 that basically goes in the same direction, but it's even easier, right? So he says, I would like to buy some OMI, but it's such a hassle. I'll wait until they get it on a regular wallet like Coinbase or something like that, at least MetaMask. You can
buy OMI on MetaMask. You can actually buy OMI on the Coinbase wallet. They have a Web3 wallet that's basically like a MetaMask, and you can purchase OMI there too. So, it's available, but most people don't know about it.
I think you can connect also MetaMask to Uniswap and buy it on DEX. So
you can do it that way. And it's funny because sometimes it's actually cheaper to just swap on MetaMask, which I was kind of shocked, because I'm like, don't you take but they might have an API that kind of helps prevent sandwich attacks that make it so like, you're potentially getting the best price. But Free CV, I actually made a video on how to purchase OMI on your MetaMask wallet. So
go check that out. Out. Okay, so that is of course helpful, right? So yeah, exactly. So Felipe also said that bronze tickets without big IP would not change the price. Talking about the OMI price here a little bit more without going too deep into price predictions, because I mean everything can happen from here on if they bring exchanges and so on. But someone before, I think it was even Superstar Money, who were making a little joke about if they didn't forget DocuSign again, then we would be on exchanges. So we had the whole story about I think it was David who said it in an interview. I still didn't get how the story exactly was. It's like we were lucky that we forgot the signatures to get it on FTX. Otherwise people
So
would
he
have
never
gotten wrecked.
said FTX, but that was that he. I inferred from his comments that he was implying that it was FTX. Right now, look, I find that that's a tough sell. Could it truly have happened? Potentially. And here's why, right? If they're worried about regulatory uncertainty, and you have like one of the biggest exchanges at the time in the world that is somewhat regulated by the US, right? They had a subsidiary, Binance, I mean not Binance, yeah, FTX.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's FTX US, but like the New York Department of Financial Services, NYDFS, they oversaw like part of FTX. And so there could have been a feeling of if they are willing to put it on, because by that time, like the SEC had started naming tokens and saying securities,
Yeah.
right? Like that had started to happen. And so they're saying, you know, if FTX feels comfortable enough putting our token on or listing our token amidst all of this, and they're based in the US or they're regulated by the US, then this would be the exchange that we'd probably feel most comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, that is a pretty, not grasping at straws necessarily, but it's still kind of like a reach, and I acknowledge that. Yeah, a bit far fetched, not completely out of the realm of possibility. But look, like I get it when people are like, "Did you really have an exchange there?" And I'm just gonna say, I hope they did, and I hope that wasn't just something that was said in a panic or whatever to try to appease the community. I really hope that wasn't what happened there. But again, with anything, I sit there and say, does this change my investment thesis on like the long term viability of the token there? But anyway, so back to what you were saying just regarding man, dude, why do I keep losing my train of thought there?
Yeah, you're tired. You said before the stream,
I
but
know it's been
with
a
regard to
long.
with regards to exchanges, so
Oh yeah.
that
Just like I don't know what's happened with exchanges, but honestly, like they've got to get on more, and I have to believe that that's part of the plan. Like you need that liquidity there, you need it for that accessibility, and so yeah, that's where we're going with the exchanges. An
exactly.
easier way for people to purchase the token, and the easier it is, the more liquidity that you're going to get, because we are emotional beings, and we like if something, for example, I might be like, oh man, I really want some ice cream. And if I have ice cream in my freezer, I'm getting it. I'm getting
Yeah.
it. But if it's still at the store, I'm like, I gotta get in this. I gotta get in my car. I gotta drive down. That's too far. Like I'm not going to do it. And so the easier that way, like if Veve can create ways to make it very easy to purchase a token and to have that token on the app, you're going to get so much more liquidity because people will just emotionally want to purchase something. They'll get FOMO, and they'll be like, I'm going to buy more bronze tickets. This is a big deal. Whereas if they have to go through those things like bridging and stuff, they're not going to do it. And that's where exchanges also help. You're going to get way more people and way more exposure to the broader crypto market. So many people have still never even heard of OMI token, even though it's been a top 200 token for like multiple years now. So
Yeah, crazy. And what is super interesting is, I mean, I have found Veve through the OMI token, as many other people also did. And now we're seeing that most of the Veve users are at the moment not super active, also because attention is flying to the altcoins and what's going on with Bitcoin and everything. So I even find myself to not checking out Veve every day, which I did before, because I'm so focused on altcoins at the moment, on altcoin bags, on everything else, right? But where I want to get with this is, I think the approach, and I hope that the team gets this also, the approach to let's fix Veve first and get more users there, and then let's take care of the token. I think that's the wrong approach. You need the token on very simple exchanges where people that maybe have not the ability to connect a MetaMask and buy something on OpenSea, or get any airdrops or NFTs in a Solana system. I think you need to approach them. So when Reese was in the Telegram channel of Ecomi, and he asked, some people were suggesting exchanges in Europe because regulation is a little bit more progressed here. He was pretty interested in some of the things that we said. And I mean, he didn't really respond to everyone. So, for example, not to me, but to other people for Netherlands exchanges. And what was interesting is, for example, we have an exchange, it's called Bitpanda, and it's so easy that my mother can buy crypto. So it's more like, it is nothing where you have a nice spread, but you can buy crypto so easy. You literally, you click a button, deposit, you deposit money, but it's there like money. It's understandable. It's not 0.00 USDT or something like that, right? It's just written like something euros, and then you have a token, and you have a plus, and you click buy, and they reserve a price for you, and for 1 minute, so you can look at the price and see and decide, and then you click, okay, I want that, and it basically executes a market order. But that's a way that really non or entry crypto people can find a token. So if they would see the Ecomi token and make research, they would also find an easy app like Veve, where you also can sign up easily and buy NFTs way easier than in here. So I think they should really tackle those exchanges if they can do it, because of the lawsuits. Yeah.
So here's my question for you though. So we don't have utility right now, and that's why some people think that the price isn't where it should be, and some of them are like, we just don't have exchanges. So they're all talking about the price, right? But the whole purpose of the token for the team from the get-go was utility. So what point would getting exchanges be, except for to drive liquidity and the price of the token up, right? So sure, we can do that, right? But if their main goal is to get, once people have the token, to be able to use it, what point would it be to have exchanges if they have not developed the mechanisms within the app that they need for the token to have utility? Why would they focus on the token first if it can't be used for the utility until they develop the app? Because would you not then get more people who, they do the investigation, they're like, I'm going to be able to use this token, I'm excited, I'm buying it, and then they're like, well, what the crap, I still can't even use the token, and have even more people be frustrated? I don't know, just a question.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
I get the reasoning, and I agree with you that from a utility point, it's absolute bullshit to do that this way. But from an attention point, I mean, Veve is the backbone for Ecomi. That's fact. But Ecomi is the user gateway in Web3 for Veve, in my opinion. So you need to have both. You need to launch both. So that's probably also the approach, like master collector program, but then integration with Ecomi token. So there needs to be something. You have soft staking. Okay, you cannot do anything with the result of the soft staking, but it's technically there. So what you want to see is, you have exchange listing, price goes up. You get some utility, price goes up more, and this shiny token drags in people to then see an opportunity in the shiny collectibles. And I mean, we're getting a little bit limited here with the time, but maybe that's also.
I can go a little bit longer.
Yeah. So to drop one more controversy out of that, right? So what I always see is, as one of the biggest disputes ever on Twitter is, the app is made for real collectors, but you are only talking about the price, right? You are saying investment, but we're talking about collecting. And OMI is a collector's token, but so how do you feel about this debate? And do you see yourself more as an investor or more as a collector?
Look, I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I don't get that. I don't think of okay, there are certain things that I have purchased on the app that I just love. and I don't care if it goes to zero. All my DeLoreans, if it goes to zero, I don't care. I love them. I love driving them. I love Back to the Future. That's great, right? Um, that being said, like, I don't think that there's a collector out there who sits there and thinks, um, I'm going to purchase this and uh, like I don't care if it goes to zero. Like people buy art and they can be like, I love art. I love it so much, right? But like people buy Picasso's for multiple reasons. They might love the art and they might think that it's great and it's a social flex, all of those things, but they're also expecting it to go up. That doesn't make them not an art collector,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I disagree. Look, I know that the team would love it if just collectors were there because like if they were just collector mindset. And I think that they have to try to couch that because they don't get to control what the market does. So they don't know like and people talk about the way they price and additions and the people that are there. Like I get that and I think that they're trying to work that out. But like I get why the team is like, if we can just focus on buy the stuff that you love, and then if it goes up, great. That's awesome. But if it doesn't, you're not disappointed because you've just bought the stuff that you love. But
Hmm.
I completely reject any notion that this is just an app for collectors and that anyone who thinks or is speculating that there's a chance that these things could go up, like I reject. In
Hmm.
in general, like I said, even for me, there are certain things that I'm buying and I don't care about the price. But a lot of things I'm thinking this is like FA things on the blockchain. I talk about that. I think about the historical significance of something like that and how in the future there is a possibility where these could be very, very heavily sought after, right? And so I am definitely of the opinion that this is both a collector's and an investor's app. And I
Hmm.
don't think that either side should shame the other for how they choose to interact with the app.
100% not. And we had this discussion on the live stream, morning live streams here as well. And someone brought up one really good point, which also defeats some of the arguments of the team itself. Why did they implement vault value if it doesn't matter? Why can you check out the vault value, right? So they brought this in the bull market when everyone could see, yo, my collection is $600,000 or something like that, right? Without cash out, but the vault value was there. Also, if it doesn't matter, no one would demand cash out, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think it's as you say, it's not separable, and I would even advocate for them the moment that everything is in a bull market, everything is about price. I would I would strongly advise that they leverage everything around price instead of collecting during a bull market, because what really gets the head, there's no headline if that I've ever seen on Cointelegraph, this very historically significant NFT has just sold. No, it's NFT sold for 1.2 million or something like that's
Yes.
the headline.
Yes. Yeah. So I will say this, there is still some concern about like how when the team talks about price of these NFTs, because it's not out of the realm of possibility that NFTs could also be considered a security. and
Yeah.
and so the way that they market things, they have to be very careful where they talk about price. Now that doesn't stop people like us from making a video saying these things, right? But I think that their focus has to be around like the experience of owning these NFTs and stuff like that. And then if people want to talk about price, great. And if they can create functions around that, that make it valuable to want to hold, whether it's I get to use these in the VB verse and I can do these social flexes. There's a lot of people there. Um, Great. But yeah, I would definitely be couching the team to say like don't be talking about price on the NFTs right now until we get more regulatory clarity on what is and what is not, an investment contract. And all, we just need more regulatory clarity around crypto and NFTs, which the Howey test was that was established in the 70s, man. And there's just so many nuances to how these things are all created here. We definitely need more clarity. But like
Isn't
I'm
that
with
even
you.
from like World War times or so, how we test? Isn't that even from the pre-World War times, something like that?
No,
Or
no.
40,
No.
40s?
Well, so there was a law that was put in place, um, and I'm trying to remember what it is off
It
the top
was
of my head.
about the orange plantation. Like if you
That was
buy
the
land
Howey
and
test.
then
That was
yeah,
the Howey test, but that was in
yeah.
the 70s. But they were
Oh,
using
okay,
a law that was, they were referring to a law that was created in the 20s to develop that. So you have a law
crazy.
that has not changed
Yeah,
since the 1920s. You have the Howey test that was using the 1920s law to establish a precedent going forward. And then you have, I mean, it's been 100 years.
that's
100
like keeping
years.
our
It's
traffic
crazy.
rules for flying cars.
Yeah, 100%, right? And being like, oh,
Yeah,
you still need a stop sign up here. And it's like, I think that we need a little bit more than a stop sign. We need some more clarity on how high you can fly, or, I mean, yeah.
yeah.
So it's a bit ridiculous, honestly, from that standpoint.
100%. So last point, maybe,
Yeah.
and then we'll wrap it up. The question came 5 times here. So thoughts on Forster to make it very, very clear cut here. So there were some opinions put out. What are your thoughts on the choice of Forster? I know that you guys have been speaking to him. I've listened to it a little bit. What Forster had to say after being announced as the community manager, but maybe you can share your thoughts quickly. I will share mine. Yeah.
Yeah. So my thoughts are this. I've seen a lot of people, some people applauding him, some people saying, how does this guy have any Web3 experience, or what's his experience there? How can he be talking about this token? But I'll say this. I think that there are very few people who understand the OMI token as well as Foster. Now, they've changed some of the tokenomics, but he's made a lot of videos on everything as they put it out. So he's very well versed in the OMI token. That doesn't, now, does he know all about Web3 and everything that's going in there? No, I don't think he needs to. I honestly don't think he needs to. He needs to understand the OMI token, because that's his purpose, is to talk about the OMI token and how that can change, right? And then they have a blockchain team that he'll be talking to. They're working on the mechanisms behind the token and the tokenomics and all of that stuff. So and he's well known in the community. Now, one thing that as he was on around the Ecomiverse, that he said that I thought was very good is he's saying, look, I'm going to unblock some of the people that I had blocked, and now that I have this role, I have to have a level of professionalism that I maybe didn't have beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, look, I believe that Foster is very well spoken, that he explains complex ideas and breaks them down into easily digestible and understandable format. And I think that that's going to be needed for the community, because a lot of the people who are coming in, they don't know a lot about crypto or Web3. So you need someone with those skills and the communication skills. And I think that he has those, and he can learn a lot of other things along the way. He's shown that he has the capacity to grasp complex topics, and understand them and learn about them. So ultimately, I'm excited. And again, I think that having someone from the community. One other thing too, people are like, well, why not this person? Why not this person? It's like, well, did
Yeah.
they apply? Did they apply?
Yeah, exactly.
Why? So those are my comments. But I am ultimately, I'm looking forward to. I think that Foster is going to level up his game, and I think he needs to, because now that you're the face of a company, right? Like the way that you interact with people, like everything changes there, and I can already see him understanding that and working towards that.
Yeah, 100%. I think the demand for someone completely a stranger, right, from LinkedIn is I think that's wrong thinking. It needs to be someone from the community, because otherwise the same people would say, hey, why you put someone here as a community manager that doesn't know the project, the community, and the token
Yeah.
is just digging in and needs, and then they would have had the perfect argument of saying, look, we just need to our community manager to dig into that stuff. He will post his first thing in 6 months. From Forster, I think we have to expect now that there is not radio silence for the next couple of months, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know how you see it, but I want to see something fairly soon, right? And I mean really soon, not really soon. So I think there will be a lot of pressure on him. There will be I think there will be the entire FAT bubble against him, yeah, and that's the biggest job, and I have a huge respect actually for taking that on, because I mean, um, they probably the not the people that criticized efforts in the project, but the people that went really ham. They have been going against him already before. So
Yeah.
right now he faces this as an official, and as you said, he needs to be in conformity with company standards now. So that's a
Yeah.
huge task. Do
Yeah.
you
I
think
will
he
say
can manage
this.
that?
You have to have thick skin. I'm not even like, it's funny because people are like, why are you defending the company? And I'm like, a lot of times someone will see a post and they'll be like, "Hey doc, like what do you think about this?" Like, and they might not like know enough about like what a poster was saying, and they need someone to basically address it, right? And man, the level of attacks that people get, right? Everyone's a keyboard warrior, and instead of attacking the argument, they attack the person, which basically reflects the fact that they don't have a strong argument, and so then they have to go to personal attacks to do that. But he's definitely going to have a thick skin, and it sucks. It sucks to see that this is. I mean, this isn't just in the Veve community. This is like Twitter in general. And Doctor Strange, that is a great point. I did
Yeah.
not see an Ecomi community manager listing, so they might have just approached him directly. So good point, right? Like, and why didn't they approach someone else? Like, I don't know. I don't know what their criteria was for it, but I do think that I still think that Foster is a solid pick. Are there people who know way more about Web3 than Foster in this community? Absolutely. Are there more people who know more about the OMI token and the tokenomics, which are probably changing a little bit, that aren't already part of the team? I don't think there are, or very, very few, to be honest. And not ones that had a channel that were very like upfront with the community and that the community know and overall was well liked.
And maybe that as a last point, there is apparently still a position as the Vivi community manager open. Will that it's just a weird thought, but will that be when Tabs Trades comes back?
So here's my theory. This is just my theory. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But man, like so Tabs, he disappeared around the time he got married. And I think that he was just like, I want to focus on my real life here. I've got a family, I've got a spouse now that I want to take care of and devote time to, because he spent a lot of time on Twitter and on videos doing excellent research and
Mhm.
things. Everyone would love Taps Trades to come back. I used to do a lot of Crypto Rain would bring me on his channel all the time to talk about VV, and I was like, you need to get Taps Trades like on your channel, right? So I was able to facilitate that where Taps came on Crypto Rain's channel and chatted. Then I got to know Taps a little bit that way. Everyone loves Taps, but this is all fine and dandy, but we live in a real world and
Yeah,
things, and I
exactly.
respect him so much mad respect for him to be able to step away from like adoring fandom. But like, okay, would Taps be an incredible VV community manager? Yes. Do I think that they could pay him what he would need to be paid compared to what he's probably making now? No. So, but yeah, that would be epic. And hey, Doctor Strange, best of luck. I love that. I
Yeah,
love
best of luck.
people
That
applying
is
to this. Do it, man. I want to see people that I've interacted with that interact with this community that are just intelligent people. I would love to see that, man. I would love to see that.
okay. So I really appreciate that you gave us a little bit more than the hour that we in the beginning agreed on, and that you did not get much sleep. You said you were a little bit under the weather, so yeah, props here to Doctor of Stuff for joining us today. And guys, make sure to check out his YouTube channel. Head over there, hit subscribe. He's a frequent guest on Jordan Reese's Around the Comiverse, and that also, as if you want to continue watching something, there is a stream going on with Jordan Reese and Crypto Rain right now. So make sure to head over there as well, and check out. They are talking about how to avoid losses in crypto, I think, or avoid losing everything. Something crypto related. So I'm going to tune in there as well. Hang a little bit out in the chat. And do you have any parting words for us here today?
I just love to thank the Patient Hodler crypto community for being here and for Patient Hodler letting me be a guest on your channel, man. It was a while ago where I first got some exposure to you and realized you had this channel, And it was actually one of the times where you were heavily criticizing Veve, and I was like, this guy's got some pretty sound arguments, so props on you for the channel that you've grown so far and the community that you've built. And I love it. I love that people get exposure to that level of thinking and that level of critical thinking there. So again, appreciate being on the channel. And absolutely, if you guys are watching from my channel and you haven't subscribed to Patient Hodler, right, please do that. Man, a voice of reason and critical thinking. And I always enjoy talking with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for the kind words. And guys, yeah, I see you in the next live stream. Let's make it short. Bye.